Jesus, Our True Friend, Stories to Fill Your Heart with Joy, by Sally Lloyd-Jones. Published by Zondervan and read by David Suchet. Jesus and the Deadly Storm. The Storm on the Sea of Galilee, from Matthew chapter 14, Mark chapter 6, and John chapter 6. Jesus was tired from teaching crowds all day. "Go on ahead," he told his friends. So while his friends got into a small boat and set off across the sea, Jesus went up on a mountainside by himself to talk with his heavenly Father. Now the Sea of Galilee was famous for sudden and deadly storms. It could be blue sky one minute and dark thunderclouds the next. And that's just what happened. Jesus' friends were out in the middle of the sea when, out of nowhere, hurricane-force winds whipped across the water. Giant waves tossed the boat up and slammed it back down. Jesus' terrified friends wrestled with the ropes, struggled with the sails, strained at the oars, frantically trying to reach shore. Night fell, and they were still out on the open water. The storm raged on. Hours more passed, and still they were far from shore, and now water was coming into the boat. "We're going to die," they screamed. They desperately needed someone to save them. And then, just when they thought it couldn't get any worse, it did. Off in the distance, they saw something, a single figure, walking towards them on the water. "It's a ghost!" they shrieked. "A horrible ghost is coming to get us! Help! Help!" Except it wasn't a ghost coming to get them. It was their friend coming to save them. It was Jesus walking on top of the waves. "Here I am," said Jesus. "You don't need to be scared." But that only made them even more terrified. What Jesus had said, the name he'd used. I am. It was the same name Moses heard from the burning bush. It was the name only God was allowed to say out loud. It was the name of God himself. They gasped. God himself coming to them in the storm? "If it is you, Lord," said Peter, "tell me to come to you." "Come on then," said Jesus, smiling. The storm was still raging, the winds were still howling, the waves were still crashing. But Peter wasn't looking at the storm, he was looking at Jesus. Hardly knowing how, Peter stepped out of the boat and trod on the waves. He gave a great laugh. Jesus laughed too. Peter was walking on top of the water. But then Peter looked down and saw the terrible waves. Fear gripped him, and beginning to sink, he cried, "Save me, Jesus!" Immediately, Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. "Peter," Jesus said gently, "why were you afraid? I'm right here." Jesus helped Peter climb back into the boat. And as soon as Jesus was in the boat, the storm stopped. The friends gazed up at Jesus. They'd seen it with their own eyes. their great rescuer coming to them in the storm. But Jesus knew there was another storm coming, a far more deadly storm, the storm of God's great anger against sin and tears and sickness and dying. God's children desperately needed someone to save them, and He would do it. Though He knew it would destroy Him, Jesus would walk straight into the center of that storm for them.